first talk of the show this morning for me. Thanks for joining me. My name's Josh. I work at Pure 360. We're an email marketing service provider. You can find us around the corner afterwards if you want to come and say hello. Part of what we specialise in is actually talking to our customers and trying to provide a bit more insight, a bit of best practice advice throughout. Part of that, what we're doing at the moment is releasing a month-on-month simplified series, which is probably why they've got me talking to you guys. And this month we're looking at sending targeted emails and creating unique experiences, basically. So what's the main thing? What's in it for you guys? Well, research from Jupiter, they found that relevant emails drive more than 18 times more revenue than general e-blasts. Revenue, I suppose, is more, typically you can find it with products, can't you? It's slightly easier to see the revenue coming back in based on products that you sell. But what I wanted to try and do as well is link this to other types of industries, sort of B2B as well, because the things we'll talk about today is going to help your overall customer engagement. And you'll do that by sending basically the right email to the right person at the right time. So for a lot of you, that's probably going to mean a change of approach. I talked to a lot of businesses where, well-established businesses, they've been going for quite a few years, but haven't necessarily got up and running as much as they could do with this kind of marketing side. So typically you'll have like a database for, maybe with like email addresses and probably just the first name, and you're sending out your blanket emails to those people like once a month or maybe bi-weekly on a newsletter, that kind of thing. But actually probably what you're looking for is, if you look at her face, she doesn't really seem too happy with what she's wearing there. So one size fits all. It's not really suited to her needs. So what you're going to need to do is start stepping up a little bit, and then that way you can stand out from the crowd like this guy. So how are you going to do that? Well, what I'm going to go through today is 5 main areas to help you sort of step out of what you're doing, get out of your comfort zone a little bit. The first thing we'll look at is some key demographic segments. We're going to start analysing behaviour on the website that you can start tracking and putting that towards creating personas if you haven't already devised your own personas. And then with all that information, what you want to start doing is trying to get as automated as possible with the data you've already got. And then we'll go into detail about how to trigger some real-time emails based on that behaviour on that website. So first up is we're just going to look at some pretty basic but really, really key, simple demographic information that you need to start looking at. I suppose the main obvious one is gender. You know, if you're in a product-led environment, you're probably going to have more products that are going to lead towards male or female, and that's an obvious way of thinking, but you should definitely do it for that reason. But what I want to do is try and give you a bit more insight to go a bit more high level with gender. So for example, I looked at e-consultancy and a study they did, and they looked at the biggest problems experienced when we were out shopping. And for women, you can see 29% of women found that a lack of help when they were shopping was quite a big problem, whereas men were looking for a spot closest to the door. So what does that mean? What does that mean for you in terms of behaviour? Well, women are looking for more of a care and experience and joy of shopping, whereas men basically just want to get the job done. So you want to think about this in the way that you're talking to your customers as well, and try and take a different approach. Maybe you can be a little bit more pushy with the guys, but the women want a little bit more, of a better experience. Age is another simple but key demographic you want to be looking at as well. For similar reasons, really, you might have products that lead or cater to different type of age groups, but again, thinking a bit more outside the box and how behaviours are sort of seen. We can see here a couple of studies that we found. 32% of 18 to 24-year-olds said they engage with vouchers and offers more. So if you're a business that is able to provide offers or vouchers, then for sure you need to look at the type of, the age group that that you have in your database essentially, and then you can target them more with offers and vouchers, as opposed to the 42% of 55 to 64-year-olds who said they prefer product recommendations based on searches or purchase history. So similar types of things, you want to be looking at whether this does relate to you, but start getting this demographic age group so you can begin to target and segment down based on these key areas. Other demographics as well, you're looking at location and those types of things. If you've got stores in different areas, you can provide offerings on the nearest location store for your customers. So the best way to go around that is to have a preference center. If you don't have one in place, I would strongly recommend having a look and trying to get one of these built. This is one we did for one of our customers, Tetley. You can see here there's various options, so it might be a bit small for the guys at the back, but what you're asking for here is these key demographic information, as well as they've gone into product details down at the bottom to see which type of tea they might prefer, from green tea to red bush and that kind of thing. Preference centers are really, really useful to you. What I would do is build it into a welcome life cycle. Last month, one of my colleagues in our Simplified series looked at how to maximize your sign-up process, and I would put one of these preference centers into your sign-up. So have a welcome email that goes out and saying thanks to the brand, but then follow up again with another email to link them to the preference center and get them to give you this demographic information. These also work really, really well on an unsubscribe page to try and prevent people opting out, because maybe you're not sending them the right sort of information. So just ask them to say, hey guys, we don't want to lose you, maybe we're not sending the right stuff, tell us what you want to know about and I'll start sending it to you. And also have a link to your preference center in every single email campaign that goes out as well. It's just, you want the customer to be able to update their preferences. I'm sure you guys yourselves, when you're interacting with brands, you want that option to do that, don't you? Behaviour, you want to start looking at the actions on the website. Some key examples here are life cycle, so not yet purchased through to first-time buyers. These are really rich data that you can deal with. For example, say you've got a first-time buyer, you want to encourage them back to the website, and the best way I would suggest doing that is to provide a little bit of an incentive if they're not engaging with your brand. So I wouldn't go straight away to offer them something big like 10% off, but maybe like a point system where they can encourage them back. You also want to look at who your high users are, so you can start building up on maybe like a VIP type section and people interacting with your brands, and go to reward those in different ways. But also who's falling off, who's not interacting anymore with your brand. This is a re-engagement email that these guys over at Pink Card sent out. It's obviously quite a soft approach. I'd link that into how you want to portray yourself as a brand, but a soft approach is absolutely fine. It's pretty common these days to have a subject line of "we miss you" or "we haven't seen you in a while" or "tell us" or "come back to us," this kind of incentive to open that email in the first place, but then you want that interaction with them. For a software like ours, for example, we're tracking the last open date against all your lists, so you can quite easily segment on, I want to see everyone who hasn't opened in 6 months, and then create a really simple targeted filter to send one of these emails to, build that into your life cycle, and try and encourage someone back to the site to engage with you again. I spoke a minute ago just about looking at your high users to create like a VIP type section. Loyalty is a great thing to build in. Your high users, is absolutely a great idea just to reward them for keep coming back to your site. So not necessarily people who are spending the most money, but the ones who are regularly using your site or interacting with your brand. Just thank them for being there. It would encourage them for a long time to keep coming back to you. And benefits sort as well. So why people come into your site? Is there a couple of reasons why? Is it just cost, or is it the quality of the service that you provide? The clear example of this is if you go onto any of the main retail websites like ASOS, Topman, there's usually a filter on the right-hand side that kind of says, I want to see price highest to low, and I'm pretty much always filtering by low to high. So it's, I want to see, that's, what I'm looking for there. So does that fit into what you guys are doing? Have a look on your website and see whether or not that's a segment that you can really start using and utilizing. Personas is something that I think each brand you should start defining for yourself. A lot of people do this really, really well and have already got it in place. You have an understanding of the customers that are going to be interacting with your brands. But if you haven't, I would suggest writing down 3 or 4 random names, pick your favorite ones, and then defining them in different ways. So for us, for example, being an ESP, a B2B business, we're going to have a persona, for example, a marketing executive. So a marketing executive is going to be the main person using our software on a day-to-day basis. They want to know more about functionality. They might be in a particular age range, but they generally want particular functionality, need to know more intricate details about how to use the system. Whereas we also have a marketing manager or e-commerce manager, maybe a commercial officer, and these are the guys that are going to be signing off the order for our sales guys. So we want to define our personalities so we know who we're targeting. If you do that, making things like content creation is going to be a lot easier for you because you know the tone that you need to use for each of the personas you're trying to target, and it will just make your whole sort of segmentation and targeting a lot easier. Key way to do that, we look to preference centers, which is good to have as a standard to collect key demographic information. But I would send out a survey to find more about your customers as well. They're a really key tool to use. Send one out maybe once a quarter, once every 6 months. A lot of them integrate with platforms. We integrate, for example, with Smart Survey. If you send a survey out, all the information that's collected is going to be fed back into your list, to your database, and you can start segmenting really well on that. Nasty Girl, it's not a personal email, don't worry. This is an example they sent out for their survey that they build into their life cycle, goes out once every 6 months, I would have thought, and then it helps them with their overall data collection. Just want to stop at the minute because I've got some more to go into, obviously, but as a breather, we've just covered briefly off on key demographic information that you need, age, gender, starting to look at activity on your website to create things like loyalty and re-engagement segments, and if you haven't already got them, think about your personas. I'm going to go into how to set up automations now, like automate key processes, as well as sending real-time triggers. So automating to your segments. This is going to save you a lot of time. It's based on the data that you've already got in your list. We know that companies who use marketing automations have a 53% higher conversion rate than non-users. And you can see here now annualized revenue growth of 3.1% higher. It lets you get really hands-off. You can set up these automations and they'll just run for you. A typical one that you should all really be doing, it's quite easy, is get a date of birth of someone and send a birthday email out. It's getting more and more common these days. People like getting stuff for free on their birthday, and it just makes them, I suppose, feel better. I don't know if everyone agrees about that, but I certainly like getting something for free. And also there's another example here where Levi's is sending out an anniversary email to say that someone's been with them for a year, so they're giving them 25% off. It's another great way to just engage with your customers. So this can be pretty much applied to any industry, essentially. You can get really complicated with automations as well. I was part of the process that helps set the NHS up with their information services for parents scheme. What they were finding was they had quite a lack of resource really to help them with their marketing. So they wanted to set up a life cycle for couples when they found out they were pregnant, all the way up to the due date, and then past when the child was born, to help them with information. If you're a first-time parent, chances are you're probably not going to know everything there is to know about giving birth to a child, so the NHS wanted to provide that information along the way. So what they've did is they've set up a load of automations, load of emails that go out once a week, and also SMS that goes out once a week as well with key information. So leading all the way up to maybe a week before the birth, that particular email would say, right, you're a week away from your due date. Chances are you're probably feeling like the baby's going to come soon. So obviously not in this type of speak, they're much more professional than that. But they were saying that basically get yourself ready for what's going to happen, and then when the baby comes along, for the next 6 months, they're providing key information about tips about how to fend and take care for that baby. Quite a complex scheme set up, but now it's running, they're completely hands off, and it's working really, really well for them. Triggering real-time emails is when we actually start looking at the activity that's on the website we were looking at before. So not just the information you've already got, but actually the behavior that's happening on the site at that moment in time. If you send in triggered emails, you can achieve an average of 70% higher open rates and 152% higher click-through rates. A welcome email is actually a trigger. So if someone comes to your site, puts their email address in, they're going to get an email straight away. And we know that welcome emails get 4 times the open rate and 5 times the click-through rate. This is because people are expecting to get welcomed into your brand. If you're not doing it, it's a really, really easy, low-hanging fruit, quick win to do. Get it set up and just send them a thanks for signing up. It really helps cement that relationship you have with your clients. It's an example of an abandoned basket email that Mothercare sent out. You can achieve 11% higher online sales through abandoned cart and abandoned browser, and it's becoming more and more and more relevant to do this right now. Obviously, it's more product-led. If you're not in that type of industry, I'd still look at what you offer on your website and the behavior and how people are interacting with your brand. But in terms of this email here, you can see they've actually sent through the product that's been abandoned. We integrate with, we've developed an app overall with showing personalized emails like this. So when an abandoned cart happens, you can actually show the products that you've left in the basket and send those out to the clients. You can actually put the personalized content into any email that you send out as well. It's kind of like, it's further personalizing that email that you get through, so maybe a browser history, and it incites someone back to the website. This is a screenshot of our app, so you can start tracking the abandoned value that's currently sitting on the site versus how much you've recovered by sending out these emails. Another key thing, so with the app that we have, we actually start tracking anonymous users. A lot of companies I talk to don't really have that view. They only really see when someone's put their email address into the site and identified themselves. That's obviously where you've seen who's interacting with your site. But we actually track on using cookies. So we can hold this information for 9 months. And if someone identifies themselves with an email address within that 9 months, then you've got all their purchase history and you can start personalizing and sending that information. And that's why we end up sending 4 times more emails than Magento. And it's a really simple integration. There's no heavy back-end installation. If you haven't got that much web development resource or in-house guys to help you out, it's really simple, 2 lines of JavaScript you put on the website and it starts tracking straight away. You can get into website personalization as well and taking snippets of the website and putting that into an email to send out regularly. An example of this, so we work with a company called Citrus Lime. They had a massive challenge because they had an abandon rate of 80 to 90%. So they started using our behavioral targeting app, and that's dropped right back down to about 60, 65%. And they're already getting a 12% uplift in their average month-on-month sales. Just by, this is simple abandoned cart email. Nothing too complicated about that. It's just straight out, get it done, get the person back to the site. And they're seeing massive, massive uplift from that. They're going to be looking at more things like browser abandonment in the future and sending these sequential personalized emails, so not just the first name but the products I was talking about just then. It's not just with products. Form abandonment is a key area, so if the product isn't an offering that you do, if it's forms on a website, surveys, or you need to gather more information, or you provide educational type services, form abandonment could work really well for you. These guys at UCheck are using it right now, so they've got a 3-stage process on the form. So what they'll have is a different email being triggered for every one of these stages that isn't finished, basically, to try and encourage them back to the website. With the form abandonment, it will also hold the details from the last search. So if you come back to the website, maybe you're in the travel industry, it's going to hold your last search in there. And it's really useful for you to just not waste too much time filling in that form again. So the 5 main areas really I wanted to cover off for you guys was you want to think about the segments that you're building. So key demographics, age, gender, location, start looking at how to build those and use a preference center to collect those along the way. Look at the activity on your website, so you can start building on key segments and create loyalty and re-engagement programs. And you want to get as automated as possible with the data you've got. It'll get hands off, you'll save a lot of time, and it will just keep going for you. Send a birthday email. And then if you can, look at something like behavioral targeting to trigger real-time emails off the website and recover a load of lost revenue. So if you've got any questions, we're just around the corner there at C50. So hope that was useful. And come say hello if you want to find out anything more. Cheers.